The Force screamed. Across the galaxy, every Jedi felt it, a rupture in reality itself, as if the fabric of space had been torn open by claws dipped in divine fury. On Coruscant, in the middle of a Senate session debating clone trooper allocations, Chancellor Palpatine's practiced smile faltered for a fraction of a second. In the Jedi Temple, Yoda's eyes snapped open from meditation, his ancient face contorted in something none of his students had seen before: primal fear. Above the planet-spanning city, green fire bloomed in the sky. It was not the green of lightsabers or blaster bolts. This was older, colder, touched by something beyond midi-chlorians and the living force. The emerald flames carved a wound in the atmosphere, and through that wound came wrath given form. A figure descended through Coruscant's traffic lanes, humanoid, shrouded in a tattered cloak that seemed woven from shadows and judgment. Where speeders passed too close, their occupants screamed, seeing not the vehicle ahead, but every sin they'd ever committed, reflected in eyes that burned with terrible green radiance. The Spectre had entered a galaxy at war with itself, drawn by concentrated evil that rivaled anything in his native universe. Jim Corrigan's consciousness, the human anchor to divine vengeance, struggled to process the alien sensations flooding through him. The Force was everywhere, permeating every atom, and it felt wrong, not evil but different. His power, granted by the Presence to punish the wicked, now had to flow through this strange energy field rather than channeling directly from divine source. He could feel it immediately. He was diminished, not powerless, far from it, but operating at perhaps 95% capacity. The Spectre's essence, designed to channel God's judgment, now had to filter through the Force itself, learning to speak a new language of cosmic justice. Below, clone troopers stationed at the Senate district looked up in confusion. Their training had covered separatist attacks, terrorist bombings, even rogue Jedi. Nothing had prepared them for this. The Spectre descended toward the Senate building like a falling star of emerald vengeance, drawn by the concentrated corruption festering at the heart of the Republic. Somewhere in that massive structure, evil wore a politician's smile and orchestrated galactic slaughter. The spirit of vengeance had come to collect. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want them to see them in down in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The landing shook the plaza, cracking permacrete and sending Senate guards scrambling for cover.
The Jedi Council convened an emergency session within minutes. 12 of the Order's greatest minds sat in a circle, and for the first time in living memory, none of them had answers. "Felt it, we all did," Yoda said, his voice grave. "Beyond the Force this presence is, yet through the Force it moves." His ears drooped with concern. "Ancient and terrible. Judge us it might." Mace Windu's jaw tightened. "I've touched the edge of the dark side to understand it. This thing, it's neither light nor dark. It's something else entirely." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "It feels like judgment itself gained consciousness." On the holo projector in the council chamber's center, security footage played on loop. The emerald-cloaked figure had landed outside the Senate building, and when guards approached with weapons raised, it had simply looked at them. 3 had dropped their blasters and fled, screaming about crimes they'd committed. 2 had fallen to their knees, weeping. 1 had turned his weapon on himself before fellow guards tackled him. The Spectre hadn't moved, hadn't needed to. "A weapon?" Ki-Adi-Mundi suggested. "Something the Separatists created?" "No," Obi-Wan Kenobi leaned forward, stroking his beard. "This isn't a weapon. It's like the Force itself opened a door, and something from outside our universe stepped through." He met Yoda's eyes.
something that judges, weighs souls, and finds most wanting. Plo Koon's masked face turned toward the footage. The guards it affected, I accessed their records. Every one had committed crimes, corruption, violence against civilians, abuse of authority. Minor offenses by galactic standards, but offenses nonetheless. A heavy silence fell over the council. "Then we're all in danger," Mace Windu said quietly. "Every Jedi in this temple has blood on their hands now. We're generals in a war. We've ordered clone troopers to their deaths. We've made tactical decisions that sacrificed innocent lives." His dark eyes swept the council. "If this entity judges us by absolute moral standards rather than the necessities of war, then none of us would pass," Obi-Wan finished. Yoda stood, leaning heavily on his gimmer stick. "To the Senate I must go. Speak with this being someone must. Understand its purpose we must, before judgment falls upon us all." He paused at the door, ancient eyes reflecting centuries of wisdom and newly discovered fear. "Pray to the Force I do, that mercy exists in a creature born of wrath." The Spectre stood motionless in Senate Plaza as the sun set over Coruscant's endless cityscape, casting long shadows that seemed to bend toward him like supplicants before a judge. Jim Corrigan's consciousness wrestled with divine purpose in an alien galaxy. The Force whispered secrets of corruption, deception, and orchestrated evil on a scale that made Gotham's criminals look like petty thieves. Then he felt it, a presence approaching. Small in stature, but immense in the Force, ancient, powerful, and bearing the weight of 10,000 compromises. Yoda emerged from a Republic gunship, clone troopers wisely keeping their distance. The Grand Master walked slowly, deliberately, giving the entity time to assess him. Every step was measured, non-threatening, the approach of one seeking understanding rather than conflict. "A stranger to our galaxy you are," Yoda said, stopping 10 meters away. "Welcome you I should, but welcome I do not think you come in peace." The Spectre's burning eyes fixed on the diminutive Jedi. For a long moment he was silent, perceiving depths in this creature that surprised him. Yoda's soul was complicated, light side dedication absolute, yet stained with the blood of thousands. A warrior monk who had betrayed his own principles to fight a war. Guilty of pragmatism, guilty of compromising the very ideals he claimed to uphold, but not irredeemable. "I am the Spectre," the voice echoed with layered harmonics, human and divine intertwined. "The spirit of vengeance. I judge the wicked and punish the guilty. I have crossed the barrier between realities because this galaxy's evil called to me like a beacon." He gestured toward the Senate building. "This place reeks of corruption. Your republic is rotting from within, and you, Jedi, you've become complicit in its decay." Yoda's ears drooped, but he didn't retreat. "Right you may be. Lost our way the Jedi have. Generals and warriors we have become, when peacekeepers we should remain." He met those terrible green eyes without flinching. "But understand you must, manipulation we face. Orchestrated this war is by an enemy we cannot see." "I see everything," the Spectre replied. "Every crime, every sin, every soul's true weight." He turned his gaze upward toward the Senate dome. "And I smell the architect of your suffering, ancient evil hiding behind bureaucracy and smiles." Before Yoda could respond, a speeder bike screamed past them, its rider fleeing Senate security. The Spectre's hand rose almost casually. Emerald energy lanced out, and the bike froze mid-air, its engine dead. The rider, a Rhodian in expensive robes, levitated backward, struggling against invisible bonds. "Senator Anaconda Far," the Spectre intoned, reading the soul like an open book. "You accepted bribes from weapons manufacturers to prolong the war. Votes cast not for the Republic's good, but for your personal profit. 3 million credits in hidden accounts, while clone soldiers die using defective equipment you approved." The Rhodian senator's screams echoed across Senate Plaza as emerald fire consumed him. Not his body, but something deeper. The Spectre's judgment burned away corruption at the soul level, leaving Far alive, but transformed. Every neuron rewired to feel the agony of every soldier who died because of his greed. He would survive. He would never be the same. Yoda watched, horrified and unable to intervene. The Spectre's power wasn't something the Force could easily counter. It operated on different principles, divine rather than cosmic. On Sereno, in a castle draped with Sith artifacts and old-world elegance, Count Dooku's eyes snapped open. Through the Force, he had felt the disturbance, and more importantly, he had felt the Spectre's nature. This was no ordinary Force user. This was something that transcended the light and dark paradigm entirely. He activated his private holoprojector. The image that materialized was not his public face for the Separatist Council, but his true master, Darth Sidious. "Master, we have a significant problem," Dooku said without preamble. "An entity has entered the galaxy. It appears on Coruscant now, executing judgment on the corrupt. Its power is considerable, different from the Force, yet able to manipulate it." Sidious's hooded face revealed nothing but calculated interest. "Describe this entity's nature, my apprentice." "It claims to be the Spectre, a spirit of vengeance. It can perceive guilt and sin without investigation and punish accordingly. It has already incapacitated a Republic senator in front of the Jedi Council's Grand Master." Dooku paused. "Master, if this being judges by absolute moral standards, it will eventually turn its attention to you, to both of us." "Then it must be understood," Sidious replied, his voice carrying dark amusement, "and if possible, turned to our advantage. Such power, properly directed, could eliminate our enemies efficiently. The Jedi Council, the Republic's leadership, all guilty of enough sins to warrant this creature's wrath. And if it cannot be turned, then it must be destroyed." Sidious leaned forward, yellow eyes gleaming. "Contact our agents on Coruscant. I want to know everything about this Spectre, its weaknesses, its origins, its true purpose. If it serves justice, then we shall convince it that the Republic and its Jedi are the true criminals." His smile was poison wrapped in silk. After all, are they not prosecuting a war? Have they not compromised their precious principles? Did they not create a slave army of clones? Dooku bowed. "As you command, my master." The transmission ended. Alone in his castle, Count Dooku contemplated the beautiful irony. The Jedi had spent 1,000 years maintaining peace. Now, a spirit of divine vengeance had arrived in a galaxy where everyone had blood on their hands. The Clone Wars made sinners of saints, and sinners the Spectre judged without mercy. The Jedi Temple's meditation chamber had never felt so suffocating. Obi-Wan Kenobi knelt on the polished floor, trying to center himself in the Force, but all he could feel was the weight of judgment pressing down on the entire structure. 3 days had passed since the Spectre's arrival, and the entity had moved through Coruscant like a surgical blade, excising corruption wherever it festered. 19 senators arrested or psychologically destroyed, 47 military officials exposed for war profiteering, countless lesser criminals reduced to gibbering shells of their former selves. And now the Spectre had turned his attention to the Jedi themselves. The chamber doors opened. Mace Windu entered, his normally stoic expression cracked with visible strain. Behind him walked the Spectre, emerald cloak trailing shadows that seemed to drink in the temple's light. Every Jedi in the building could feel his presence, a wrongness in the Force, like a musical note played in a key that shouldn't exist. "Master Kenobi," the Spectre's layered voice echoed. "You commanded clone troopers on Christophsis, ordered them to hold a position you knew was indefensible. 17 died buying time for a tactical retreat." Obi-Wan rose slowly, meeting those burning green eyes. Yes, 17 lives spent to save 3,000 civilians and preserve our strategic position. His voice was steady despite the fear crawling up his spine. "I carry their names: CC-4820, CT-7219, CT—" "Their names don't absolve you of their blood," the Spectre interrupted. "You are a Jedi, a peacekeeper, yet you've become a general, making calculations of acceptable loss. You've compromised everything your order claims to stand for." "We fight because we must," Obi-Wan's composure finally cracked. "The Separatists would enslave or slaughter billions. We didn't choose this war. It was thrust upon us." "You chose to fight it." Obi-Wan moved closer, and Obi-Wan felt his soul laid bare, every decision, every compromise, every moment of doubt examined by something far beyond mortal judgment. You could have refused, could have maintained your principles even if it meant defeat. Instead, you became warriors, killers, no different from the Sith you claimed to oppose. Mace Windu stepped between them, hand hovering near his lightsaber, though they both knew it would be useless. "We serve the living Force. We do what we must to protect life, even when that requires difficult choices. Judge us if you will, Spectre, but understand this: we're fighting against manipulation we can barely perceive. This war isn't what it seems." The Spectre's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "We believe," Obi-Wan said carefully, "that both sides are being controlled. The Separatist leader, Count Dooku, is a Sith Lord, but there's another, a master we cannot identify, someone orchestrating events from the shadows, turning the galaxy against itself." For the first time, the Spectre paused, his cosmic awareness, already perceiving the tangled web of corruption throughout Coruscant, suddenly focused with laser intensity. A hidden evil, manipulating all sides? "Yes," Mace confirmed, "which makes us all pawns. Even our sins may be part of someone else's design." The Spectre's form flickered, divine fury wrestling with divine justice. "Then I will find this orchestrator, and when I do, judgment will be absolute." Chancellor Palpatine's private office was a masterpiece of understated power. Ancient Sith artifacts, disguised as mere curiosities, lined the walls. The view overlooked the Senate district, thousands of lights representing the Republic's vast reach. And now, standing before the massive desk, the Spectre radiated menace that even centuries of Sith discipline couldn't fully mask. Palpatine had invited him, a bold move, but necessary. "Ah, the famous Spectre," Palpatine said warmly, his grandfatherly demeanor impeccable. "The entity who has shaken Coruscant to its core. Please sit. We have much to discuss." The Spectre remained standing. "You reek of deception, Chancellor. Every word from your mouth is calculated, every gesture rehearsed. But I sense something deeper, something you hide even from your own surface thoughts." Palpatine's smile never wavered, a testament to his control. Internally, Darth Sidious assessed this threat with cold precision. The Spectre's power was genuine, operating outside the Force's normal paradigms. Direct confrontation would be problematic, but manipulation, that was always an option. "Deception is the currency of politics, I'm afraid," Palpatine said with manufactured sadness. "But I invited you here not as an enemy, but as someone who might understand the terrible burden of judgment." He gestured to the window. "You've executed vengeance on the corrupt. Admirable. But have you considered that you're treating symptoms while the disease spreads unchecked?" "Choose your next words carefully," the Spectre warned, emerald fire flickering around his hands. "The Jedi," Palpatine said, allowing venom to seep into his voice. "They preach peace while commanding armies. They speak of the living force while ordering clone soldiers, slaves effectively, to die for their strategies. They claim moral authority while bombing separatist worlds and assassinating political leaders." He leaned forward. "You've judged senators and officers, but the greatest hypocrites sit in that temple, wearing robes of righteousness while their hands drip with blood." The Spectre's eyes blazed brighter. "I have already confronted the Jedi. They are guilty of compromise, of pragmatism that betrays their ideals, but they fight against manipulation they cannot see." "Do they? Or is that simply their excuse?" "The Separatists have legitimate grievances: overtaxation, Republic corruption, core world privilege. Yet the Jedi chose to fight for a broken system rather than reform it. They chose war over wisdom." He stood, moving to the window. "I'm just a simple politician trying to hold the Republic together. But the Jedi Council, they're supposed to be better than me. They claim to serve the Force itself. Yet here we are, drowning in a war they perpetuate." The Spectre's consciousness, Jim Corrigan's human anchor, struggled with the logic. The Jedi were guilty of hypocrisy. Their compromises had led to countless deaths. But something felt wrong about this conversation, like pieces moving on a board he couldn't quite see. "You want me to judge the Jedi, to weaken them. Why?" "Because they're failing the galaxy, and someone must hold them accountable. Even the righteous need judgment, don't they? Especially the righteous, perhaps. Their sins are greater because they should know better." The battle on Ryloth had been raging for 3 days. Clone troopers fought and died in the canyons, while Twi'lek civilians huddled in caves, caught between Republic and Separatist forces. From orbit, the devastation was total. Villages reduced to rubble, ecosystems poisoned by chemical weapons, families torn apart by a war neither side truly understood. The Spectre materialized above the battlefield like a green comet. Below, Commander Cody's voice crackled over comms. "General Skywalker, we've got an unknown contact descending through the atmosphere. Massive energy signature, not matching any known ship configuration." Anakin Skywalker, standing in the command center of the Republic cruiser, felt the disturbance in the Force like a knife to his consciousness. "I know what it is," he muttered. "The Spectre, the entity from Coruscant." "Should we engage?" Cody asked. "Negative. Weapons wouldn't touch him anyway." Anakin's mechanical hand clenched into a fist. "He's here to judge us again." The Spectre descended into the canyon where clone troopers prepared for another assault. CT-7567, Captain Rex, saw the emerald figure land and immediately ordered his men to halt fire, though every instinct screamed to defend themselves. "You," the Spectre's voice froze the battlefield. Droids on the opposite ridge powered down, their primitive AI unable to process the entity's presence. Soldiers without choice, born in laboratories, aged to maturity in accelerated chambers, programmed for obedience. Slaves fighting a war you didn't choose, for a republic that considers you property. Rex removed his helmet, meeting those burning eyes with a soldier's discipline. "We're soldiers of the Republic. We fight for freedom." "You are not free." The Spectre's fury shook the canyon walls. Droids on the opposite ridge powered down, their primitive AI unable to process the entity's presence. Genetic copies, mass-produced for slaughter. The Jedi command you to die, and you obey, because that's how you were designed. This, he gestured to the devastation around them, this is the Republic's great moral stance, creating life solely to throw it into a meat grinder? Behind Rex, dozens of clone troopers stood silent, their identical faces reflecting an uncomfortable truth they'd never been allowed to voice. The Spectre turned his gaze upwards toward the Republic cruiser. "Skywalker, Kenobi, you call yourselves heroes while commanding an army of slaves. Every clone death is on your conscience, every life spent like currency in your tactical calculations." In the cruiser, Anakin felt the accusation like a physical blow. How many times had he ordered clones into danger? How many names had he learned, only to add them to an ever-growing list of casualties? His friendship with Rex, with Cody, with the men under his command, did any of it excuse the fundamental horror of their existence? In a cave system 3 kilometers away, Twi'lek children cried while their parents tried to comfort them. The Spectre felt every innocent life caught in this manufactured conflict, every family destroyed by decisions made in Senate chambers and separatist council rooms. "This war is a lie," the Spectre pronounced, his voice carrying across every comm channel, heard by both sides. "A fabrication designed to consolidate power and destroy innocence. And all of you, Jedi, clones, senators, civilians, you're all victims of an architect you refuse to see."
The hunt began simultaneously from 2 directions. In the Jedi Temple, Mace Windu stood before the Council with a grim expression. The Spectre has become unpredictable. His judgments grow more extreme. He stopped distinguishing between those guilty of malice and those guilty of necessity. He activated a hologram showing the Ryloth incident. He nearly caused our forces to mutiny. Clone troopers are questioning their purpose, their loyalty. If this continues, we'll lose the army and the war. Dangerous he has become, Yoda agreed sadly. See the manipulation behind our choices he does not. Only the choices themselves judges he. Blind to nuance, absolute judgment is. Then we have no choice, Ki-Adi-Mundi said. We must stop him, contain him if possible, destroy him if necessary. Across the galaxy, on Sereno, Darth Sidious delivered similar orders to Count Dooku via encrypted hologram. The Spectre has rejected my overtures. Worse, his presence risks exposing elements of our plan prematurely. He senses the manipulation, but hasn't identified its source yet. We cannot allow him time to unravel our web. Master, his power is considerable but not unlimited, Sidious interrupted. He draws strength from this force now, correct?
then he can be opposed through the Force. Gather the Dark Acolytes, bring Asajj Ventress and the Night Sisters if necessary. Overwhelm him with numbers and dark side energy. While the Jedi attack from one side, we strike from another. Dooku bowed. And if we fail, then I will deal with him personally. Sidious's yellow eyes gleamed with dark promise. I have been planning this war for decades. I will not allow an interdimensional spirit of vengeance to unravel centuries of Sith revenge over moral sanctimony. The trap was set on Bothawai, a strategic world where Republic and Separatist forces clashed. Intelligence, carefully leaked to both sides, suggested the Spectre would appear there to judge a particularly corrupt Republic admiral. It was a lie, but a convincing one. The Spectre materialized exactly as predicted, drawn by the concentrated suffering and corruption of another pointless battle. What he found instead was a killing field designed specifically for him. 12 Jedi surrounded him in a circle, masters including Mace Windu, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Plo Koon. Their lightsabers ignited as one, creating a perimeter of plasma blades. Above, Republic gunships hovered with heavy cannons charged. From the opposite direction, Count Dooku emerged with Asajj Ventress and 6 Dark Acolytes, their red blades adding to the deadly perimeter. Behind them, Separatist tanks and droid battalions locked weapons on target. A unified front, the Spectre observed, his voice cold. Jedi and Sith working together to eliminate judgment itself. How fitting. You fear not my power, but my truth. Mace Windu stepped forward, Vapad form ready. You've gone too far, Spectre. You judge without understanding, punish without mercy. You see guilt everywhere because you refuse to see context, manipulation, or the necessities of survival. And you, the Spectre countered, refuse to admit that those necessities have corrupted you beyond redemption. Every compromise leads to another. Every pragmatic choice makes the next betrayal easier. His form blazed brighter, emerald fire building to nuclear intensity. You're right about one thing, though. I do judge without mercy, because mercy for the guilty is cruelty to their victims. Count Dooku raised his lightsaber. For once, the Jedi and I agree on something. You must be stopped. The Spectre's laugh was terrible, divine fury given voice. Then come, let me show you what judgment looks like when it's made flesh. The battle erupted with apocalyptic fury. Mace Windu struck first, Vapad channeling aggression into focused strikes that blurred purple through the air. The Spectre caught the lightsaber blade with his bare hand, emerald energy wrapping around plasma, rendering it harmless. He twisted, and Windu flew backward as if struck by a hurricane, crashing through 3 droids before slamming into a stone outcropping. Count Dooku came from the opposite side, red blade seeking vulnerable points with Makashi precision. The Spectre simply looked at him. Dooku's advance halted as every sin, every betrayal, every life he'd taken flashed before his consciousness in microseconds. The Sith Lord screamed, dropping to one knee. I see you, Dooku, the Spectre intoned. Fallen Jedi, aristocrat playing at revolution while serving a darker master. You think yourself a visionary, but you're merely a pawn. Asajj Ventress's twin blades interrupted, slashing through the space where the Spectre stood. He phased through the attack, becoming incorporeal, then solidified behind her. Slave, assassin, Sith apprentice, you've killed innocents for credits and called it survival. Your pain doesn't excuse your crimes. Ki-Adi-Mundi and Plo Koon attacked in concert, their combined force push hitting like a tsunami. The Spectre absorbed it, channeling the energy through his connection to this universe's cosmic power. He was adapting, learning to speak the Force's language fluently, letting it amplify rather than restrict his divine purpose. Above, Republic gunships opened fire. Laser cannons converged on the Spectre's position, superheating the air to plasma temperatures. Separatist artillery joined from the opposite ridge, a temporary alliance against a common threat. The bombardment turned the battlefield into an inferno. When the smoke cleared, the Spectre stood unharmed, his cloak billowing with power that made the Force itself recoil. But Jim Corrigan's consciousness, the human anchor, felt the strain. Operating in this alien universe, channeling judgment through the Force rather than divine mandate directly, was taking its toll. He was still immensely powerful, but not infinite, not here. "You cannot win," Dooku said, rising despite the psychic agony. "We'll keep coming, both orders united for once. You've made yourself the galaxy's greatest threat." "No," the Spectre's eyes blazed with revelation. "I've made myself a distraction from the galaxy's greatest threat. The orchestrator you refuse to name. The manipulator hiding behind Republic authority." His gaze swept across both Jedi and Sith. "You've all felt him, sensed him, yet none dare to look directly at the truth, because the truth would shatter your illusions." Mace Windu struggled to his feet, body bruised but spirit unbroken. "If you know who it is, tell us." "I don't know," the Spectre admitted. "Not yet. His deception runs deeper than anything I've encountered. He's woven himself into the fabric of your Republic so thoroughly that exposing him might collapse everything." The emerald fire dimmed slightly, not defeat, but calculation. "But I will find him, and when I do, his judgment will make everything I've done look like mercy." He raised both hands and reality bent. The Jedi and Sith found themselves frozen, suspended in a moment stretched to breaking. The Spectre's form began to phase, shifting between dimensions. "Continue your war," he said, voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere. "Play your parts in his grand design, but know this, I am watching. And when the architect reveals himself, divine vengeance will be absolute." He vanished, leaving only scorched earth and two groups of enemies standing together in confused alliance.
The Senate chamber was packed for an emergency session. Senators from 1,000 worlds demanded answers about the entity terrorizing Coruscant, about the unprecedented alliance between Jedi and Separatists on both Awui, about the growing fear that something beyond their comprehension had entered their galaxy. Chancellor Palpatine stood at the central podium, his expression grave and grandfatherly. "My fellow senators, we face an unprecedented threat. This Spectre claims to serve justice, but recognizes no law, no authority, no mercy. It has attacked Republic officials, terrified our citizens, and now threatens the very foundations of our democracy." The Senate erupted in agreement, calls for action, for protection, for leadership. Palpatine let it build before raising his hands for silence. "Therefore, I propose emergency measures, increased security, enhanced surveillance, and, regrettably, expanded executive powers to coordinate our defense against this extra-dimensional threat." His voice carried perfect concern, flawless patriotism. "Only by uniting can we face this judgment without justice, this wrath without wisdom." The vote passed overwhelmingly, another step toward dictatorship wrapped in necessity and fear. High above, perched on one of Coruscant's impossible spires, the Spectre watched. His cosmic awareness had grown, adapting to the Force's nuances, and now, finally, the threads were becoming clear.
The corruption he'd sensed, the orchestrated suffering, the manipulation, it all flowed toward that podium, toward that kind face, toward that practiced voice. Palpatine, Chancellor Palpatine. But something protected him, layers of deception so profound that even divine sight struggled to penetrate fully. Sith alchemy, perhaps, or something older. The Spectre could sense the darkness, the calculated evil, but not yet prove it, not yet expose it without causing the very collapse the galaxy couldn't survive. Jim Corrigan's consciousness wrestled with the dilemma. In his universe, judgment was clear. Find the guilty, punish them, move on. But here, Palpatine had embedded himself so deeply into the Republic's structure that removing him prematurely might cause more harm than good. The clone armies, the war infrastructure, the political alliances, all would collapse into chaos. The Spectre needed evidence, needed the moment of revelation when Palpatine's mask slipped completely, when the galaxy could see the monster wearing a statesman's face. Below, in the Jedi Temple, Yoda stood alone in the council chamber, meditating on their encounter with the Spectre. The entity had been right about so much. The Jedi had compromised, had become warriors, had lost their way. But they'd been guided, manipulated into this position. By whom? The Sith Lord they couldn't identify? Close the darkness is, Yoda whispered to himself. In plain sight, perhaps, hidden by what we refuse to see. On Sereno, Count Dooku knelt before his master's hologram, still shaken from the Spectre's judgment. Master, he knows, perhaps not your identity, but he knows someone orchestrates everything. He won't stop until he finds you. Darth Sidious smiled beneath his hood. Then let him search. Every moment he spends hunting me is a moment I grow stronger. The war continues, my apprentice. Clone armies expand. The Republic powers centralize. Jedi spread thin across the galaxy. Soon everything will be in place. And the Spectre will witness the culmination of a Sith Lord's ultimate triumph, and there will be nothing, not divine judgment, not cosmic vengeance, not even his vaunted righteousness that can stop what I have set in motion. The transmission ended. Dooku was left alone with the uncomfortable knowledge that his master had just declared war on a force of divine vengeance, and neither side would accept anything less than absolute victory.
The Spectre had become a ghost story whispered across the galaxy. Senators slept uneasily, wondering if their secrets would summon emerald fire. Jedi meditated with new humility, questioning every decision, every compromise. Clone troopers lay awake in their bunks, contemplating questions about freedom and purpose they'd never been designed to ask. And in the shadows, Palpatine continued his grand design, now forced to account for an unpredictable variable that could expose everything with a single moment of divine clarity. Jim Corrigan, the man anchoring the Spectre's consciousness, had adapted to this strange universe. The Force flowed through his judgment now, amplifying rather than restricting. He'd gone from 95% capacity to something approaching full power, learning to channel vengeance through midi-chlorians and cosmic energy alike. But power wasn't the problem. Understanding was. This galaxy operated on moral complexities his absolute judgment struggled to parse. Good people forced into terrible choices. Evil so sophisticated it masqueraded as patriotism. A war where both sides were victims of manipulation, where every death served an architect who remained frustratingly obscured. The Spectre had stopped his indiscriminate judgments, recognizing that punishing symptoms while the disease thrived was pointless. Now he hunted the true threat,
the orchestrator Dooku served, the darkness the Jedi refused to acknowledge, the Sith Lord who'd somehow achieved what should be impossible, hiding from divine sight. Palpatine would slip eventually, they always did, and when that moment came, when the mask fell and the monster stood revealed, the Spectre would be waiting with judgment absolute. The Clone Wars continued to rage. Planets burned. Clone soldiers died by the thousands. Jedi compromised their principles one decision at a time. And beneath it all, Darth Sidious wove his web tighter, preparing for the moment when Republic would become Empire and democracy would die to thunderous applause. But now, for the first time in his ancient plans, the Sith Lord had to account for wrath incarnate stalking Coruscant's shadows. The Spectre had become a player in a game he didn't fully understand yet, hunting an enemy who'd mastered deception on a cosmic scale. The confrontation was inevitable. Sith ambition versus divine vengeance, calculated evil versus absolute judgment, and the galaxy would never be the same after their final reckoning. Whatever emerged from that clash would reshape the Force itself, creating ripples that would echo through the war's conclusion and beyond. The Spectre's presence had altered the Clone Wars' trajectory in ways neither Jedi nor Sith could predict. For in a galaxy far, far away, judgment had arrived, and it would not leave until the guilty faced their reckoning, no matter how long that hunt required, no matter how powerful the enemy, no matter what cosmic forces opposed divine vengeance. The Force had never encountered anything like the Spectre before, and it trembled with uncertainty about what would happen when unstoppable judgment met unmovable evil.